The Tesla free energy generator. In 1899, Nikola Tesla developed a wireless power transmission system that could provide unlimited free electricity to the entire world. His Wardenclyffe Tower project successfully demonstrated the technology, powering electrical devices across Long Island without any wires or fuel sources. Within 2 years, the project was shut down. The tower was demolished, and all evidence of Tesla's breakthrough was systematically destroyed. Tesla's free energy system worked by tapping into what he called radiant energy, electromagnetic radiation that permeates all space and can be converted into usable electricity. His tower created a resonance effect with the Earth's natural electrical field, essentially turning the entire planet into a wireless power source that could supply unlimited energy to any receiver tuned to the correct frequency. Documented demonstrations showed Tesla's system powering entire neighborhoods on Long Island using nothing more than specialized receivers that collected energy from the air itself. Witnesses described light bulbs glowing without any connection to power lines, electric motors running continuously without fuel, and heating systems operating indefinitely without any energy source. J.P. Morgan, who had financed the project, immediately withdrew funding when he realized that free energy would destroy the profit model of the electrical power industry. Morgan reportedly told Tesla, "If anyone can draw on the power, where do we put the meter?" The financial implications were staggering. Tesla's invention threatened to eliminate the need for power companies, coal mining, and oil consumption for electrical generation. Federal agents seized all of Tesla's research materials immediately after his death in 1943, classifying his free energy patents under national security orders that remain in effect today. The FBI confiscated over 80 trunks of Tesla's documents, including detailed blueprints for scaling up the wireless power system to global proportions. Independent researchers who attempted to replicate Tesla's free energy system have faced systematic persecution. In 1957, engineer Lester Hendershot built a working reproduction of Tesla's radiant energy collector and demonstrated it to military officials. Within weeks, Hendershot's laboratory was raided by federal agents. His device was confiscated, and he was warned never to discuss his work again. The suppression continues today. Patent applications for free energy devices are immediately classified under the Inventions Secrecy Act, preventing inventors from developing or discussing their technologies publicly. Over 5,000 patents remain classified under secrecy orders, many involving energy generation systems that would eliminate dependence on fossil fuels. Tesla's free energy system represented more than a technological breakthrough. It was a threat to the fundamental economic structure of modern civilization. Unlimited free power would have eliminated energy scarcity, reduced industrial costs to nearly zero, and fundamentally altered the balance of global economic power. The technology that could have freed humanity from energy dependence was deliberately erased to protect the interests of industries built on artificial scarcity. Tesla's vision of abundant free energy for all humanity was sacrificed to preserve the profit margins of companies that control the world's power supply. The Rife Cancer Cure Machine. In the 1930s, Dr. Royal Raymond Rife invented a microscope so powerful it could observe living viruses and bacteria in real time, and discovered that specific electromagnetic frequencies could destroy cancer cells without harming healthy tissue. His frequency therapy successfully cured cancer in clinical trials with 100% success rates before being systematically suppressed by the medical establishment that profited from expensive, ineffective treatments. Rife's universal microscope achieved magnifications of over 60,000 times using a revolutionary optical system that made living microorganisms visible without killing them. Using this technology, he identified the specific electromagnetic signature of cancer-causing viruses and developed frequency generators that could destroy these pathogens selectively. The Rife frequency therapy worked by bombarding cancer cells with precise electromagnetic pulses that matched their natural resonant frequency. Like an opera singer shattering a wine glass with the right note, Rife's machine could destroy malignant cells by hitting them with their exact vibrational frequency while leaving healthy cells completely unaffected. Clinical trials conducted in 1934 at the University of Southern California showed remarkable results. 16 terminal cancer patients were treated with Rife's frequency therapy, and within 70 days, 14 were completely cured. The remaining 2 patients recovered fully after their treatment protocols were adjusted, achieving a 100% cure rate for terminal cancer cases. Dr. Milbank Johnson, who directed the clinical trials, prepared to announce the revolutionary cancer cure to the medical world. But before the results could be published, Johnson died suddenly of mysterious circumstances, and all documentation of the cancer cure trials vanished from university records. The American Medical Association, led by Morris Fishbein, immediately launched a campaign to discredit Rife's work. Medical journals refused to publish papers on frequency therapy. Researchers who supported Rife's work lost their funding, and doctors who used the Rife machines were threatened with loss of their medical licenses. In 1939, agents working for pharmaceutical interests broke into Rife's laboratory and destroyed his research materials, including irreplaceable components of his universal microscope. The remaining Rife machines were systematically tracked down and destroyed, and technicians who had built the devices were intimidated into silence. The suppression was economic as well as scientific. Cancer treatment had become a billion-dollar industry by the 1940s, generating enormous profits for pharmaceutical companies, hospitals, and medical equipment manufacturers. Rife's simple, inexpensive cure threatened to eliminate the entire cancer treatment industry overnight. Several researchers who attempted to replicate Rife's work died under suspicious circumstances. Dr. Nemes, who had reproduced the frequency therapy results, was found dead in his laboratory under conditions that investigators deemed mysterious but not suspicious. Dr. Koch, another Rife supporter, died suddenly just before testifying about the cancer cure's effectiveness. Rife spent his final years fighting legal battles and patent disputes, impoverished and broken by the systematic destruction of his life's work. The technology that could have saved millions of lives was erased to protect the profits of an industry that benefits from treating disease rather than curing it. The Brown anti-gravity device. In 1928, physicist Thomas Townsend Brown discovered that electrically charged objects experience a force that appears to defy gravity, leading to the development of anti-gravity technology that could revolutionize transportation and space travel. His electrogravitics research successfully demonstrated controlled flight using electrical fields alone, before being classified and hidden under national security restrictions that persist today. Brown's breakthrough came from observing that capacitors, devices that store electrical charge, experience a net force when charged with high voltage. The capacitors would move toward their positive electrode, creating thrust without any propellant or moving parts. This Biefeld-Brown effect suggested that electricity and gravity were connected in ways that contradicted Einstein's general relativity. In 1952, Brown demonstrated his anti-gravity technology to military officials using disc-shaped capacitors that could fly around a circular course under their own power. The devices achieved speeds of several hundred miles per hour using only electrical energy, with no jets, propellers, or reaction mass of any kind. The implications were staggering. Brown's electrogravitics could enable spacecraft that didn't require fuel, aircraft that could hover indefinitely using only battery power, and transportation systems that operated silently and without environmental impact. The technology promised to revolutionize every aspect of human mobility and space exploration. Classified military research into electrogravitics began immediately, with projects codenamed Winter Haven and Project Y receiving substantial funding from the Air Force and Navy. Brown was recruited to develop military applications of anti-gravity technology, including disc-shaped aircraft that could outperform any conventional fighter plane. By 1955, Brown had developed electrogravitics devices that could lift their own power supplies and achieve sustained flight. Classified demonstrations showed disc-shaped craft powered by high-voltage generators achieving remarkable performance characteristics that conventional aircraft couldn't match. The research was suddenly classified in 1956 under national security orders that made public discussion of electrogravitics illegal. Brown's patents were seized, his research facilities were closed, and all documentation of anti-gravity technology was removed from public access. The official explanation was that the research had failed to produce practical results. independent investigators discovered that major aerospace companies had secretly incorporated electrogravitics research into advanced aircraft programs. Aviation Week magazine reported in 1956 that several aircraft manufacturers were developing flame jet engines and electrogravitic propulsion systems for next-generation military aircraft. The suppression of Brown's anti-gravity technology appears to have been motivated by strategic military considerations rather than scientific validity. If electrogravitics could enable revolutionary aircraft capabilities, controlling the technology would provide decisive military advantages to nations that possessed it. Brown died in 1985, still prohibited from discussing his breakthrough discovery that electricity could overcome gravity. His anti-gravity technology remains classified, hidden within government laboratories, where it may have contributed to advanced aircraft programs that officially don't exist. The Keeley motor mystery. In 1872, inventor John Worrell Keeley developed a motor that ran on what he called sympathetic vibration, extracting unlimited energy from sound waves and molecular resonance. His demonstrations powered heavy machinery using nothing more than musical tones and harmonic frequencies, before the technology was suppressed by investors who realized it would destroy the industrial economy. Keeley's motor worked by harnessing what he termed etheric force, the vibrational energy that he claimed existed within all matter. By creating specific acoustic frequencies, his device could tap into this molecular motion and convert it into mechanical work, essentially creating a perpetual motion machine that violated the laws of thermodynamics. Public demonstrations in Philadelphia showed Keeley's motor lifting enormous weights, powering industrial equipment, and running continuously for hours using only sound waves generated by tuning forks in acoustic devices. The motor appeared to extract limitless energy from the air itself, requiring no fuel, electricity, or external power source. Scientists and investors who witnessed the demonstrations confirmed that Keeley's machine produced far more energy than any known power source could provide. The device generated thousands of horsepower, using only vibrations that Keeley created with simple musical instruments and acoustic resonators. The Keeley Motor Company was formed in 1874, with funding from wealthy investors who recognized the revolutionary implications of unlimited free energy. But as development progressed, investors realized that Keeley's technology would make existing industrial infrastructure obsolete, destroying fortunes built on coal, steam, and mechanical power. Systematic sabotage of Keeley's work began in 1881, when investors demanded that he reveal the secret of his vibrational energy source. When Keeley refused to disclose the complete principles behind his motor, funding was withdrawn and legal action was taken to seize his equipment and research materials. After Keeley's death in 1898, investigators who examined his laboratory claimed to find evidence of fraud, including hidden compressed air systems that they alleged had powered his demonstrations. However, these debunking efforts were funded by the same investors who had withdrawn support from his research and had financial interests in suppressing the technology. Independent analysis of Keeley's work suggests that his vibrational motors operated on principles of acoustic resonance and molecular harmonic frequency that wouldn't be understood by mainstream science until the development of quantum mechanics decades later. His etheric force appears to describe zero-point energy extraction through harmonic manipulation. Modern researchers have successfully replicated aspects of Keeley's vibrational energy systems, achieving limited success with acoustic motors that generate more power than their input energy should theoretically allow. These experiments suggest that Keeley may have discovered legitimate principles of energy extraction from molecular vibration. The Keeley motor represented technology that could have eliminated humanity's dependence on fossil fuels and centralized power generation over a century ago. Its suppression and subsequent debunking protected industrial interests that profited from energy scarcity and prevented the development of truly sustainable technology. The Hutchison effect apparatus. In 1979, Canadian inventor John Hutchison accidentally discovered that specific combinations of electromagnetic fields could cause objects to levitate, transmute elements, and defy the laws of physics in ways that mainstream science insists are impossible. His Hutchison effect demonstrations were witnessed by military officials and scientists before his equipment was confiscated and his research was classified under national security restrictions. The Hutchison effect occurred when multiple electromagnetic generators, Tesla coils, Van de Graaff generators, and RF signal generators, were operated simultaneously in Hutchison's laboratory. The intersecting electromagnetic fields created zones where normal physics ceased to function, causing metal objects to spontaneously levitate, fuse together, or transform into different materials. Video documentation shows aluminum bars bending like rubber, pieces of metal lifting off tables and floating in midair, and dissimilar materials fusing together at the molecular level without heat or pressure. Objects placed in the electromagnetic field zones exhibited behavior that violated conservation of energy, mass, and momentum. Military officials from the United States and Canadian governments observed Hutchison's demonstrations and confirmed that the effects were genuine. Colonel John Alexander from the U.S. Army Intelligence and Security Command witnessed materials levitating and transmuting, reporting that the phenomena couldn't be explained by any known scientific principles. The most remarkable aspect of the Hutchison effect was its ability to alter matter at the atomic level. Steel bars would partially transmute into aluminum, wood would fuse with metal, and objects would spontaneously change their molecular composition in ways that seemed to violate the fundamental laws of chemistry and nuclear physics. In 1990, Hutchison's laboratory equipment was confiscated by Canadian authorities acting on behalf of international military interests. His electromagnetic generators, documentation, and experimental materials were seized and classified under national security orders that prohibited him from discussing or replicating his work. Attempts to reproduce the Hutchison effect by government laboratories have reportedly been successful, but remain classified. Internal documents suggest that military researchers have incorporated Hutchison's discoveries into advanced weapons programs that can manipulate matter and gravity using electromagnetic field interactions. The suppression of Hutchison's work appears motivated by the revolutionary implications of field effect matter manipulation. If electromagnetic fields can cause levitation, transmutation, and defiance of physical laws, the technology could revolutionize manufacturing, transportation, and materials science while making conventional military hardware obsolete. Hutchison has continued his research in secret, despite government harassment and the confiscation of his equipment. He claims to have developed portable devices that can create localized zones of altered physics, but demonstration of these technologies has been prohibited by national security restrictions. The Hutchison effect represents discovery of field interactions that could transform human understanding of matter, energy, and the fundamental structure of reality. Its systematic suppression suggests that powerful interests prefer to keep this knowledge restricted rather than allow its development for civilian applications. The Reich orgone accumulator. In the 1940s, psychiatrist Wilhelm Reich developed devices that could accumulate and concentrate what he called orgone energy, a universal life force that could treat diseases, control weather, and power motors without fuel. His organ technology successfully demonstrated healing effects and weather modification before Reich was imprisoned and his research was systematically destroyed by federal authorities. Reich discovered orgone energy while studying the relationship between psychological health and biological energy. He found that living organisms naturally accumulate and radiate a form of energy that could be concentrated using alternating layers of organic and metallic materials arranged in specific geometric patterns. The orgone accumulator consisted of a box-like structure with walls made from alternating layers of steel wool and organic materials like cotton or wood chips. This configuration created what Reich called an orgone field that could be used to treat illness, accelerate healing, and restore biological vitality to living organisms. Medical testing showed that patients treated in orgone accumulators experienced significant improvements in conditions including cancer, arthritis, and chronic fatigue. Temperature measurements confirmed that the devices generated measurable heat without any power source, suggesting they were actually concentrating some form of environmental energy. Reich's weather modification experiments used large-scale organ devices called cloudbusters that could disperse clouds, create rainfall, and control atmospheric conditions by manipulating orgone energy flows in the atmosphere. Documented demonstrations showed successful weather control over large geographical areas using only mechanical orgone manipulation devices. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration began investigating Reich's work in 1947, claiming that orgone energy didn't exist and that his medical claims were fraudulent. Despite extensive documentation and witness testimony supporting Reich's discoveries, federal authorities obtained court injunctions prohibiting the distribution of orgone devices. In 1956, federal agents raided Reich's laboratory and destroyed his research materials, including books, papers, and orgone accumulators. The systematic destruction was so thorough that agents even burned Reich's scientific journals and personal correspondence, eliminating decades of research into bioenergy effects. Reich was imprisoned in 1957 on charges of contempt of court for continuing his organ research in violation of federal injunctions. He died in federal prison 8 months later under circumstances that his supporters considered suspicious, effectively ending all legitimate research into orgone energy phenomena. Independent researchers who have attempted to replicate Reich's orgone accumulator have reported similar biological effects, including temperature anomalies, enhanced plant growth, and measurable healing acceleration. These results suggest that Reich may have discovered legitimate bioenergy principles that mainstream science refuses to acknowledge. The suppression of Reich's orgone technology appears to have been motivated by its implications for medical treatment and energy generation. If organ accumulators could treat diseases and concentrate environmental energy, they threatened pharmaceutical profits and conventional power generation industries. The Coral Castle magnetic levitation system. Between 1923 and 1951, Edward Leeds Calnan single-handedly built Coral Castle in Florida using massive coral blocks, weighing up to 30 tons each. Working alone at night with only primitive tools, Leeds Calnan demonstrated an unknown method of moving enormous stone blocks that appears to have involved magnetic levitation technology. After his death, all evidence of his construction methods was systematically removed and classified. Leeds Calnan claimed to understand the secrets of pyramid construction and anti-gravity, stating that he had discovered how the ancient Egyptians moved massive stone blocks using magnetic forces rather than mechanical advantage. He built his coral castle as a demonstration of these lost construction techniques. Witnesses occasionally observed Leeds Calnan working at night and reported seeing him moving massive coral blocks as if they weighed nothing. The blocks would reportedly float through the air and position themselves precisely where Leeds Calnan directed them, suggesting some form of magnetic or gravitational manipulation. The engineering required to move 30-ton blocks using conventional methods would require heavy machinery that Leeds Calnan didn't possess. His primitive tools, pulleys, chains, and hand-built tripods, couldn't generate the forces needed to lift and position stones weighing tens of thousands of pounds with the precision shown at Coral Castle. Leeds Calnan's workshop contained unusual electrical equipment, including homemade generators, electromagnetic coils, and devices that he claimed could see magnetic currents. He spoke frequently about understanding magnetic current and the relationship between magnetism and gravity that mainstream science ignored. After Leeds Calnan's death in 1951, government investigators immediately sealed his workshop and confiscated all of his equipment and research notes. The devices he used for stone construction were removed and classified, and all documentation of his magnetic levitation methods was eliminated from public access. Analysis of the coral blocks at Coral Castle reveals cut marks and shaping that couldn't have been achieved with primitive hand tools. The precision of the stone cutting and the complexity of the mechanical joints suggest the use of advanced tools that Leeds Calnan officially didn't possess. The positioning accuracy of the massive blocks exceeds what would be possible using conventional construction methods. Some stones are balanced so precisely on single points that they can be moved by hand pressure despite weighing tons, indicating understanding of leverage and balance that approaches perfection. Modern attempts to move similar coral blocks using conventional construction equipment have required multiple cranes and teams of workers. The fact that Leeds-Kalnin accomplished the same work alone, using primitive tools, suggests he had access to construction principles that remain unknown to conventional engineering. The systematic removal of Leeds-Kalnin's construction equipment and research materials suggests that his magnetic levitation technology was too advanced to remain in public hands. The methods he used to move massive stones may have demonstrated anti-gravity principles that government agencies preferred to keep classified. The Searle effect generator. In the 1960s, British electrical engineer John Searle developed a magnetic generator that produced unlimited free energy while demonstrating anti-gravity effects that allowed it to lift off the ground and fly. His Searle effect generator, SEG, successfully powered entire buildings using magnetic field interactions alone, before the technology was suppressed by authorities and Searle's research facilities were destroyed. The SEG consisted of magnetic rollers that orbited around magnetized rings in specific geometric patterns. As the rollers moved around the rings, they generated electrical current through magnetic induction, while simultaneously creating anti-gravity effects that reduced the device's apparent weight to zero. Demonstrations showed SEG devices producing kilowatts of electrical power without any input energy source, while simultaneously levitating and flying through the air under their own power. The generators appeared to extract unlimited energy from magnetic field interactions that somehow didn't violate conservation of energy laws. Witnesses described seeing Searle's generators floating above their mounting platforms while powering electrical loads that should have required substantial input power. The devices generated electricity continuously without fuel, mechanical input, or any apparent energy source other than the magnetic interactions of their rotating components. The SEG technology combined free energy generation with anti-gravity propulsion in a single device that could theoretically power spacecraft indefinitely while providing their own lift and propulsion. The implications for space travel and energy generation were revolutionary, offering unlimited power and transportation capabilities. In 1968, British authorities raided Searle's laboratory and confiscated his equipment, claiming that his generators were creating electrical interference with aircraft navigation systems. All SEG devices were destroyed, and Searle was prohibited from continuing his research under threat of imprisonment for violating electronic emissions regulations. Searle spent several years in prison on charges related to electrical code violations and generator operation without proper permits. During his incarceration, all of his research materials were confiscated and destroyed, eliminating decades of work on magnetic field energy extraction and anti-gravity technology. Attempts to replicate Searle's work have been systematically suppressed through patent interference, legal challenges, and denial of research funding. Scientists who have achieved partial success with SEG-type generators have faced harassment, equipment confiscation, and legal action that prevented further development. The suppression of Searle's technology appears motivated by its implications for energy independence and space propulsion. If magnetic generators could provide unlimited power while enabling anti-gravity flight, they would revolutionize transportation and eliminate dependence on fossil fuels and conventional electrical generation. Searle continues to work on SEG development despite decades of suppression, claiming that his magnetic generators represent a new form of physics based on magnetic field interactions that mainstream science refuses to acknowledge. His technology remains classified and restricted from public development. The Schauberger implosion engine. In the 1940s, Austrian inventor Victor Schauberger developed revolutionary engines that generated power through implosion rather than explosion, creating vortex effects that could produce unlimited energy while simultaneously purifying air and water. His implosion technology demonstrated efficiency levels impossible with conventional engines, before being confiscated by Allied forces and classified for military applications. Schauberger's implosion engines worked by creating spiral vortex patterns in air and water that concentrated energy inward rather than dispersing it outward like conventional explosion engines. The vortex implosion process generated tremendous power, while actually cooling the engine and producing pure, energized air and water as byproducts. The repulsine implosion engine achieved remarkable performance characteristics. generating substantial horsepower while consuming minimal fuel and producing no harmful emissions. The engine operated almost silently and became more efficient as it ran longer, apparently extracting additional energy from the vortex implosion process itself. German military forces took interest in Schauberger's technology during World War II, commissioning him to develop implosion engines for advanced aircraft applications. His work contributed to disc-shaped aircraft prototypes that achieved flight characteristics impossible with conventional propulsion systems. After the war ended, American intelligence forces captured Schauberger and seized all of his research materials, including prototypes, blueprints, and documentation of implosion engine principles. He was interrogated extensively about his vortex technology before being released with warnings never to continue his research. Schauberger's implosion engines demonstrated energy efficiency levels that violated conventional thermodynamic principles. The devices appeared to extract more energy from fuel than combustion chemistry should allow, suggesting they were tapping into additional energy sources through vortex manipulation of air and water molecules. The environmental benefits of implosion technology were revolutionary. Schauberger's engines produced purified air and water as exhaust products, actually improving environmental conditions while generating power. The technology offered pollution-free energy generation that could reverse environmental damage while providing unlimited clean power. In 1958, American businessmen convinced Schauberger to come to the United States to develop his implosion technology for commercial applications. However, after arriving, he was forced to sign contracts that gave complete control of his inventions to American corporations, while prohibiting him from continuing independent research. Schauberger died in 1958, shortly after returning to Austria, reportedly broken by the suppression of his life's work. All of his implosion engine technology was classified and removed from public access, preventing the development of clean energy systems that could have eliminated environmental pollution from power generation. Modern researchers who have attempted to replicate Schauberger's vortex implosion principles have achieved limited success but face systematic suppression through patent denial, funding restrictions, and legal challenges that prevent the commercial development of implosion-based energy systems. The Philadelphia Experiment Teleportation Device. In 1943, the U.S. Navy conducted a classified experiment that successfully teleported the destroyer USS Eldridge from Philadelphia to Norfolk using an experimental electromagnetic field generator. The Philadelphia experiment demonstrated matter transmission and invisibility technology that was immediately classified and hidden because it proved that physical reality could be manipulated through electromagnetic field control. The experiment was based on Einstein's unified field theory, which suggested that electromagnetic and gravitational fields could be manipulated to alter space-time around physical objects. By generating powerful electromagnetic fields around the ship, researchers hoped to achieve radar invisibility, but instead achieved something far more extraordinary. On October 28, 1943, massive electromagnetic generators created a field around USS Eldridge that caused the ship to vanish completely from the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard. Witnesses reported seeing the ship disappear in a flash of blue-green light, leaving only an indentation in the water where it had been moored. The ship reappeared minutes later at the Norfolk Naval Station in Virginia, over 200 miles away, having apparently traveled instantaneously through what could only be described as teleportation. Radar operators at Norfolk confirmed the ship's sudden appearance before it vanished again and returned to Philadelphia. The crew of USS Eldridge experienced severe psychological and physical effects from the teleportation process. Some sailors were found fused partially into the ship's metal structure. Others became invisible and couldn't turn the effect off, and many suffered from temporal displacement that left them existing partially outside normal time flow. Dr. Morris Jessup, who investigated the experiment, received detailed accounts from sailors who described the horrifying effects of electromagnetic field exposure on human consciousness. The technology had succeeded in manipulating physical reality, but at costs that made it too dangerous for practical application. The Navy immediately classified all records of the Philadelphia experiment and denied that any such research had occurred. Witnesses were transferred to different assignments, sworn to secrecy, and threatened with court-martial if they discussed what they had observed. The teleportation technology demonstrated that physical matter could be transmitted instantaneously across vast distances using electromagnetic field manipulation. The implications for transportation, communication, and military applications were revolutionary, offering capabilities that would fundamentally transform human civilization. Independent researchers who investigated the Philadelphia experiment found evidence that the technology was based on principles of dimensional manipulation that allowed objects to travel through parallel space-time dimensions rather than conventional three-dimensional space. This suggested that reality itself could be edited using electromagnetic field control. The systematic suppression of teleportation technology appears motivated by its implications for military and economic control. If matter transmission became available, it would eliminate transportation industries, make military bases vulnerable to instant attack, and fundamentally alter the structure of global commerce and political power. Conclusion. These 10 erased inventions represent more than lost opportunities for technological progress. They're evidence of a systematic pattern of suppression that protects existing power structures by eliminating innovations that would fundamentally transform human civilization. From Tesla's free energy systems to the Philadelphia experiment's teleportation technology, each breakthrough was eliminated not because it didn't work, but because it worked too well. What unites these suppressed inventions isn't scientific impossibility, but economic and political threat. Free energy would eliminate utility companies. Cancer cures would destroy pharmaceutical profits. Anti-gravity would revolutionize transportation and make military aircraft obsolete. Matter transmutation would eliminate scarcity-based economics. Each technology was suppressed because it challenged industries worth trillions of dollars. The pattern of suppression is consistent across decades and continents. Brilliant inventors create revolutionary technologies, demonstrate their effectiveness to credible witnesses, then face systematic persecution through patent seizure, equipment confiscation, legal harassment, and often mysterious deaths or disappearances. The innovations that could have created a golden age of human prosperity are buried in classified vaults or destroyed entirely. Perhaps most disturbing is what these erased inventions reveal about the nature of technological progress. Innovation isn't limited by scientific possibility, but by economic permission. Breakthrough technologies exist but remain hidden because they threaten the profit margins of industries built on artificial scarcity and planned obsolescence. The 10 inventions documented here represent just a fraction of the revolutionary technologies that have been systematically erased from history. In classified facilities worldwide, breakthrough innovations gather dust, while humanity continues to struggle with problems that were solved decades ago by inventors whose work was deemed too dangerous for public knowledge. These erased inventions prove that the world we inhabit isn't the world we could have. It's the world that certain powers have decided we're allowed to have. The technologies that could eliminate poverty, cure diseases, provide unlimited clean energy, and transport us to the stars exist, but they've been locked away to preserve the existing order that benefits from human limitation and dependence. The greatest tragedy isn't that these inventions were lost. It's that they were deliberately hidden, ensuring that human potential remains artificially constrained, while revolutionary solutions to our greatest challenges remain forever just out of reach.